Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of No Way Jose. Today I'm joined by King Knight. This is the first appearance on the show. We're getting into alien stuff. It's been a while. It's been a minute. I think it's somewhat timely, though. I mean, let's be real. I mean, what were they doing before they popped old Charlie Kirk's head recently? What were they trying to use to distract us from the old Epstein Files aliens? So, I don't know. It was timely, although we scheduled this before the latest craziness, the latest major deep event. So I don't know, maybe it took a little bit of shine off the alien stuff, but I do still think it maintains some sort of spot in the zeitgeist for particular reasons. There's a whole different ways to attack this. I mean, hell, if you all remember, they were doing the same thing in COVID a while back. So I don't know, maybe once the heat gets too high, they're all right. Well, we got to pop somebody, and then they start this process all over again. I don't know what the boom bust cycle is here. But despite all that, let's go ahead and get King Knight in here and get into it, and we'll get to talking. What is up, King Knight? How are you?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
Good. Glad to have you here. You want to take a moment to let the audience know who you are, what you're about, what your milieu is, if you do have any sort of projects you're working on or anything you're going to be working on soon, just let them know all that.
Okay, so yeah, I go by King Knight on Twitter. It's just at King Knight, you know, the way that my name is put on the screen there. I think there's an underscore at the end of it, but I mean, I'm sure he can tag you in the video to where you can get a hold of me. My biggest project that I have working on right now is one that I've been working on for about the last 2 to 3 years. And it's my attempt to basically make the conspiracy schizo version of Zeitgeist. Like try to make a huge, massive documentary that just lays out how the plan of everything is going for everybody in like the most easy to digest terms, in a way to kind of like wake people up, you know, who would have to go through a ton of research, but would probably take forever to come to the same conclusions that we're all probably at. Just to, you know, you remember back in like the golden days of like conspiracy YouTube, how like there'd be certain videos that you'd watch and you'd be like, oh yeah, this is it. I'm basically trying to make one that's like that, but it's gonna have like analog horror themes to a degree. Like it's supposed to like have that vibe, and I figured that it would have that vibe on purpose so that it can try to drag more people in, because that, you know, a lot of people use that in memes now. Like you see the analog horror, you know, stuff always everywhere, like the creepy faces and the VHS textures and stuff. And you know, even with how popular that aesthetic is, I figured like that would be the ultimate way to kind of present like a full documentary on conspiracy, but to give it like just that right bit of I don't know, like I guess excitement. Because you ever remember like when you would watch your like first conspiracy videos on YouTube back in the day like that, and it would just freak you out massively? Yeah. I don't know, like I feel like I can make like a version of that would be like the definitive one, and I'm trying to do that. And I don't know if like I'm just like thinking too far, you know, ahead of myself or what, but I mean, I feel like it's a very special project for sure.
Hell yeah. Well, with that, let's go ahead and get into the topic we came to talk about today. Aliens. Like I said, it was a little bit more, I guess, timely, sort of. I think it was. I'm kind of curious. I mean, I guess we can kind of get into the topic. Do you think there's anything to that? I guess it's almost like, I don't know if you've ever delved into the economic world, but I know my audience probably knows what the boom bust cycle is. But what I described right there is kind of almost like the boom bust cycle, but with aliens and I guess revelation of anything. It does seem to be that there's like these varying levels of things that get flashed before us, or things that happen when there seems to be some sort of narrative they're trying to escape or avoid or whatever. And Aliens seems to be, I'd say, judging by the past like decade or so, probably near the top of that. Like once you're getting to where like, oh, they're revealing aliens, like if they get any more hot water, like some real deep stuff's happening. Aliens seem to be near the tippy top, like they tease, but they don't really actually do anything. But like, ooh, look over there. So just, I guess thoughts. Is there something to that? I mean, obviously, I'm more of a. I don't know what exactly angle you're going to go with, but I'm more of a like the concept of a. I'm more of a believer in the idea that a lot of this UFO stuff more likely is probably some sort of how do I say this? Like in the alien realm, it's almost basically glows. It glows to death. It's all just like damn near incomprehensible so far as digging into and finding any sort of truth. I mean, I'm not saying there are or aren't aliens or whatever things. I'm just saying it's such a bamboozled topic with the feds that have infiltrated to such a ridiculous degree that there's almost no truth to be found from there. But either way, I guess just kind of I guess that's kind of two questions. But the main one being kind of just your thoughts and like, is there something to this like this revelation they have, and even then, it's kind of this low tier, low effort thing they flash before us because it's like, I don't know. Once again, I don't know what your take is all this, but I don't feel like they're ever getting anywhere goddamn close. Any of the times they've ever been like, ooh, aliens. So I don't know. I ramble enough. Any thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I honestly, I think it's a little bit of both, like realistically, and where it comes into the both. A lot of people get weirded out because I talk to a lot of people who research the alien thing, and I even look very deep into like the whole Project Bluebeam thing and like how they're trying to set all of that up in that way, and I don't rule that out by any means, but whenever it comes to me personally, I spend a lot of time being like an armchair researcher on that stuff. Like all I do is I sit around, I watch YouTube and all that. It would lead me into like these different books and stuff that people would cite. And you always see like these quotes in, conspiracy content about aliens specifically that like hint around to the spiritual nature of them. But like you never actually, I don't feel like a whole lot of people actually sit down and really read those books. And I don't think that they do because like they either think that it's just like spiritual bullshit or that they're probably actually afraid of it because of their religious beliefs. Now with me, like I used to be an atheist until I started researching conspiracy stuff, and the more I got to looking at it, all it did is point me in the direction of God. So by doing that, I became interested in spirituality, and then I would sit and research all these books and stuff that they would specifically cite. Like I would sit down and read, all the occult stuff, all the Aleister Crowley stuff. I would actually, try to sit and commit it to memory and understand like how their whole systems worked and stuff. And almost all of those eventually comes into something like contact material, where they're talking with spirits. Every single one of them.
Speaking of Nokian and shit.
Yeah, well, the Nokian thing is like a big thing with it too. Like the whole Matthew Brown thing, and him putting that big whistleblower post up, but when he put it up, he put that name of Borimon at the end of it. Then there was this YouTuber called Lifting the Lamp that came out of nowhere and was like, yeah, he used that from my video. And he said, he sat down and said that he personally invoked that spirit, like that he got it first. He said he was the first person in human history to ever do that.
Do you remember you remember that shooting recently over at the Catholic Church? You remember that picture that came out with all of that stuff of the shooter drew of like him looking into a mirror, and then like there's like a skull demon looking thing looking back at him.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was. I wish I could remember. I did a recent episode with somebody recently, and they were telling me that, I mean, obviously, this is, I wish I could remember who the guest was or which episode it was. I want to say it was William Ramsey, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was somebody else I was talking to. I think it was somebody else. Anyways, they were saying, I guess, apparently these, what was it, maybe 764? I forget which group it was, but he was implying, or maybe Calm. But anyways, one of these weird online groups that apparently they've been dabbling with, I think they call it like mirror scrying or something. Or something along those lines, and that might be what we were actually looking at in that actual like that mirror, where essentially they're getting, I don't know exactly how it's working, but some of these small niche groups are getting absolutely blasted on some sort of combo of drugs and staring into mirrors and essentially trying to contact entities and write down what they say and these sorts of things, which is kind of what we're getting out of the. I know a lot of people might not know what Enochian is, but this was literally I forget exactly who it was. You probably could tell me, but a couple people in the occult and others have done it as well, where they were able to essentially speak to beings they thought were angels, but it's kind of. I don't know. I'm not particularly religious, but it sounds pretty goddamn demonic to me what they're describing. But yeah, anyways, point being is to that, the Enochian aliens or Enochian angels or demons or aliens. It's like it is kind of like to what you're getting at. You're talking about a lot of the same things. And even if you do, I guess, want to say maybe, if you're something more like me that maybe is a little bit more, I'm not religious, maybe you can find another way to understand it, or at least even demons or egregores or what. Because, there's some sort of DID something going on, so I don't know if that maybe communes with entities in some way, or maybe it's just a different part of your brain. But either way, we understand this as demons, and maybe they've also kind of found ways to kind of I almost said conflate that with aliens. So
I'm gonna suck them off. That's funny.
I was trying to use too many damn big words and I got mixed up.
Trying to fillet them. Well, even if you want to go that route with that term, like they all like seem to practice sex magic and stuff like that. Like when they get far enough into the occult where they're researching all of it, they do start like doing it. And I can say that from experience because I used to be a practitioner of this kind of stuff. I've done like goetic, demon summoning and stuff like that, when I was younger and I was trying to be like an edgelord. I would mess around with that stuff back, when I was an atheist. You start to actually have things truly manifest in your life from doing that. And like actual paranormal events will happen to you and stuff when you do that. And a lot of people, they act like it's all metaphor and stuff like that, but it's really not. Like the further you get into it, you actually do succeed in that kind of stuff. And yeah, they do consume a lot of drugs with that. But the reason is because when you get into these teachings, like for the rituals to typically work, there has to be a sacrament of some kind that's willing to open your consciousness to where these things exist. Now, every time that anybody is, on TV nowadays talking about it, the extra dimensional like hypothesis is what comes up the most, and people hint around to that the very most out of everything. And the thing is that these entities are 100% real, and they do exist in a dimension next to yours. When it comes to what am I trying to say here? When it comes to the way that they do exist, everybody imagines that demons are trapped, down in hell, and like they're there and they're just waiting on us and stuff. But the Bible doesn't tell us that. It tells us, that when God took the Nephilim and killed them, during the flood, that he condemned their spirits to walk, in a place where they could never rest from then on out. And he would allow them to do things to like tempt us, but they couldn't directly interact with us. But when you get to looking in the book of Enoch, which is, where, Enoch is where Enochian is derived from, the angels that they speak to are beings that they have to contact by like using these complex geometric patterns, and they do mirror scrying and stuff like that, exactly like what you're saying. So when it comes
wife
to
swapping,
like wife swapping, bestiality, all that stuff, the more perverse
the angels want it.
Yeah. And it really does get to that level, and especially in the modern day, that's one of the big things. That's why you see so much like messed up porn and stuff on the internet these days.
I am remembering that correctly. I can't remember the name of the people who were the first ones who were known for the Enochian, but didn't they get into like sex magic and wife swapping and all that stuff as part of it? I believe, if I recall correctly, or maybe I'm mixing that up with Crowley and what's his face, the
Crowley and L. Ron Hubbard.
Or not Hubbard. Maybe it was Hubbard. I think I think Crowley cucked multiple dudes. Now I think about it, because I think he did that to Hubbard.
Not L. Ron Hubbard. I'm thinking about Jack Parsons. I'm sorry.
That's who I was thinking about too. Okay, I know. I almost said Hubbard as well. For some reason, I mixed the two up, the names.
All
but
three of them are linked anyway through the fact that all of the stuff that went on between them, happened because Jack Parsons was studying Crowley and wanting to be like his disciple. Like he was actually in contact with Crowley. Crowley would send him letters and stuff all the time. And, everybody sees that one thing of Aleister Crowley's drawing of Lamb that's always posted everywhere. And I think that people treat that like it's just like a spooky anecdote or something, but I take it, completely literal with everything that I've ended up researching. Because when you get to looking at the occult and, just the way that things are set out, it all does seem to follow a pattern. So when you got the kid, that did the shooting, the trans kid that did the shooting over at Minnesota, I guess, was it Minnesota?
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yes.
That's right. That's
Okay.
Minneapolis is Minnesota, right? Yeah. That's right. Yep.
I
The
just, I,
Annunciation Church shooting. Yeah.
yeah. That picture that he drew, it could have been looked at as like metaphoric, like when he looks at the mirror, he sees himself as a demon. But, if he was involved, from what I've seen, at least somewhat, in like 764 and stuff like that, like consuming like material like Order of Nine Angles and stuff, it's a good possibility he was trying some stuff like that. The people that you were thinking about that were like the first wife swappers was John D. and Edward Kelly.
There you
And
go. That's what John D. There you go.
yeah, they're the ones that originated the Enochian magic system.
Yeah. It's because it's ridiculous. This is where everyone points to. They're like, "Oh, they're aliens," and they're like, "Well, now they're calling us to swap our wives." And you're like, you'd think most people would be like, "I don't think those are angels, man." Or maybe I said aliens. I meant to say angels before, but like, I don't think those are angels.
Well, I believe from everything that I've looked into it that John D. and Edward Kelly initially did believe that they were angels and that they were actually contacting something holy, but there's always this element of deception that comes with it. And it adapts, through time in a way that it can match like what is in the cultural zeitgeist of the time. Back then, like he would have assumed he was contacting an angel, yeah, but nowadays with the way that they've like over secularized everything, a lot of people do not see like any kind of deeper meaning in that kind of stuff. It's they think that it's aliens, but it's something that's been here the entire time, and it always.
On that, I mean, to kind of the idea of these talking to others, we had the Thule Society and stuff like that. They a lot of those people from that realm were thinking they were talking to other entities. Now, I will say theirs was kind of almost this weird mix between like the D's and like almost was very religious. Whereas like the Tool Society, maybe and some of the other similar people at that time that were supposedly communing with other entities, it did the vibe I got, while not being a kind of a cursory approach, digging into this, is that they were theirs is more like a hybrid. It was like sort of aliens, sort of some sort of woo woo. Whereas obviously now we're dealing with with aliens now. If we do get some sort of now it's far more secularized and far more. I don't know. I know recently we had that one bug-eyed John Greer's buddy, who supposedly found that egg, like a year or so ago, maybe a little bit less, and he's speaking about how like he still had a little bit of a religious component when he was describing it. Now, once again, I don't necessarily believe these guys for a moment, so I don't know what exactly they're experiencing, if it's all made up, what exactly. I mean, let's be real. Greer, I'm pretty sure he worked for the Rothschilds, which has been revealed already. So, point being, any of these, revealing the truth people are, controlled op. But I mean, kind of pointing to the idea of like these things talking to other entities. It is interesting that you bring up that is like it started out being more religious, and it kind of as we've gotten more to the modern day, it's kind of take on more of a secular view. But I think the AWAS point you brought up is kind of a, because even then wasn't even really looked as an alien even at that point in time. That was just this entity he was talking to, and that was what he drew. And that was it. Yeah, just I don't know. I guess I was just kind of rambling about the different eras and the ways in which they have these entities they talk to and how they viewed them at the time.
Yeah, it always seems to change, with the time that passes. And the thing is I believe, a big part of the conspiracy is that, when people say that the government is ran by Satanists, I think that they only think that it's, typically in like maybe the theatrical way, or maybe, most people who look deep enough into the conspiracy, they start to see that it's in a religious type way, like, and everything that goes on in the modern day, you can trace to religion. I mean, even with Charlie Kirk getting shot, recently, um, the big thing about that is that it's got people going back into church like crazy. Like I went out to drive Sunday here, and the place that I live at is, it's not the kind of place that you see a lot of people in church all the time. But when I went driving around, I saw that like every church on Sunday morning was packed, and I kind of felt, like why didn't I go? You know what I mean? And when you look at the media and you look at stuff that they put it out for a reason. They want us to be able to see what they're trying to convey to us. I mean, every time an event like that happens, if you've looked at like any kind of research on the Schumann resonance, um, and what is that thing called? The Human Consciousness Project.
Mm.
They're able to trace that there's big fluctuations in the Schumann resonance and stuff because of the event shocking like so many people. Like when 9/11 happened, there's a specific one that you can look up on that, where it showed like, I guess they like, the way I'm remembering it, they did it with like random number generators, and if it was like so much consciousness was interacting in some way, like it would set these numbers off in a certain way. I don't know the exact mechanics of it, but they do broadcast that stuff to us on purpose, and it's because that, they understand the manipulation of life force because they've been taught all this stuff that's in the occult. They understand, what sacrifices and stuff like that does for them. That's why they do it.
Mm.
That's always such a big, thing that people are very contentious about, but it does happen. You got to look at how many people go missing in the country a year. Um, and they just don't find them. Like you don't ever hear really about like any of these people, their bodies ever being found or anything like that. If you go into the store and you look at one of those missing persons things, I can guarantee you that you won't see as many being found as you would like to see. And I don't know if it's because I'm like extra schizo or not, but I every time I think about that, like I'm like, where are they going to? You got the missing 411 stuff. You've got all this stuff happening, and these people believe that as long as they can control um, humanity through manipulation of certain forces, including like human consciousness, that they can keep us all like wound into this illusion. The whole thing about magic, black magic, any of that thing is it's all based in psychology. A lot of it is very much based in psychology. Carl Jung um, was so familiar with the occult because of that. And I'm not a person who's like very educated in psychology or anything. I've only really had like life experience that's taught me how to like read people and how to understand what things make people tick. And these people already know this stuff though. And they make sure that they keep it in lock, but it's not just based down to psychology. That's not what magic is. A lot of people try to write that off as that too, like it's just, they're just making you think some way. It's like mentalism. It's much deeper than that. um, what they communicate with is the very like tip top of these teachings, like the spiritualism teachings that they have. Within it, you can go to the Goetic summoning route or any of these different schools of doing it, Enochian. But the whole point of it is entity contact, and it's something that like is a big part of the way that everything is laid out, but they don't make so much noise about it, I guess I'm trying to say, as you would think. It's something that you have to dig deep to find out about. And then you kind of got to start putting one and one together when you're thinking about it. At least that's what I did. I wasn't really a person who studied anything like this, but as I started looking into conspiracy and I started looking at all these little subtleties that are to it, it makes it interlock even more. And I feel like the alien thing is a big part of it, and that it is influenced by like all the Fed shit and seeing stuff like Charlie Kirk dying and stuff like that. They not only do things to manipulate, you know, certain the way that people feel about certain things, but they do them intentionally and for a reason. Um, I think through all of my research, what I've come to figure out is that it's all to serve these things that are on the other side of the veil. Um, when we talk about spiritual warfare, that comes up a whole lot in, conspiracy circles when people are looking into it. And it's like an actual big part of it is the fact that when you get to looking, in the Bible about all this stuff, in all of the religious texts, actually, because all of them have a little grain of truth to them, you'll see that there's always this big thing about a big prevalent force behind everything. And I think the alien phenomenon and that are one and the same. I think that it actually has so much to do with every bit of it that it's more like the bedrock of the whole conspiracy thing. Like the further down you get when it starts to come together, I feel like that's where it starts to come together the best.
Okay. Well, I guess maybe we could go into examples. I mean, I don't know, or maybe if there's another angle you want to go into. I mean, what exactly? I mean, I guess we kind of talked about AWAS, but I don't know if there's any other particular examples you want to drive on to kind of, for this, the kind of the underlying bedrock. But I don't necessarily disagree with you. It does seem perhaps at its root there is something there, and I know you do a. Obviously, I'm not religious, so to some extent, I am the person that like I do try to conceptualize this in some sort of way. But I'm completely open to the idea of whether we want to call them demons or aliens or something else, especially with all the stuff I've dug into, all the satanic, the SRA type stuff, and all the crazy stuff that's going out there. Like there's evil in the world for sure. So I mean, and I just kind of I see these things. I mean, it's evil, and I mean, it's kind of not that crazy. These people clearly believe. At least some of them must believe in something, because I mean, there is, they're literally doing satanic rituals. I mean, at different points, they might be to different things. I mean, I've theorized that perhaps it, could be at least to some people, or maybe even all, although I doubt it. I think to some, maybe it's just a cynical route to power. It's essentially a religion of power, is what I've looked at it, but. Just kind of, what are I guess, kind of clawing at your thoughts of kind of this, like the veil. I guess is kind of this is kind of what we're driving at here. This is the veil, like what's beyond it. Just kind of the AWASs, the other entities that the Thule Society they're contacting or whatever. Just I don't just wherever you want to go with this. I mean, whether you want to provide examples or other angles on this, but yeah.
Well, if you get to looking at like stuff like the alien new age, channel material, when you're researching into that as well, you'll start to see that it all mirrors any kind of like talk about occult contact that they have going on. Every bit of that all comes to an intersection with that. And then you've got stuff like Stephen Greer teaching people how to do CE5. CE5, those methods of, causing alien contact that he's released to people. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not.
Yeah, I've heard about that. There was another same guy. There's Stephen Greer, and there's also that like what is he called? Oh, you guys see me playing with my gun. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of fidgeting with the gun over here. I just realized I'm just doodling with my gun. There's no bullets in it.
Yeah, get John Wick.
Yeah, what were we just talking about? Sorry, I just realized I was flashing a gun around. I was using it as a fidget spinner. Okay, all right. Where were we back at? I'm sorry, I got sidetracked because I was really playing with the gun. Wait, aliens, AWA. God damn it, I got totally sidetracked there. Do you remember what the hell I was just talking about there?
Like how like the stuff that Stephen Greer does.
Okay, I remember what I was getting at now. Sorry, I did cut you off, but I was also lumping in there as another example. I figured maybe you'd know it, isn't like the Joan of something guy or whatever the fuck. There's another dude who does something similar to that, like the C5 thing, where he's supposedly also calling forth aliens, and that he has some weird religious angle to it all too, or something.
Yeah, I know the guy you're talking about, but I don't remember his name either.
Okay.
But I mean, I definitely know who you're talking about. I just can't think. I think I've seen like one post about the guy in passing at some point, and I read it, and I did remember that he was doing essentially the same thing. But it's a big thing, all over the world. Realistically, what these people are basically trying to put out to everybody is ultimately like shamanism teachings like all you got all these people in different cultures, like the Hindu culture and in China and stuff. There's always like the oracle type person or like the shaman type person that's in their culture, and what a big thing that they do is like that transcendental meditation stuff. And at the very core of what CE5 is it's techniques like that, and it's stuff that we've got the hemi-sync thing that people are doing that they say can initiate like a contact experience if you do it to certain levels, stuff like that. They're putting it out there um in that format. There's different ways to do it, but what he is doing by doing that, and that's the most popular current method, is he's teaching people an occultic method in order to make this happen. um a lot of people look at it as it's like nuts and bolts UFOs. Like they're gonna actually be like the little green man, and the UFO is gonna land on the White House and all that stuff. Um, but they're starting to shift away from that big time. Like anytime you hear like Anna Paulina Luna talk about it in Congress, she always brings up like the dimensional thing. Like so, it's on people's minds.
Yeah.
They're thinking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll be
Um,
honest, I hear the dimension thing and I think for one, like I get what you're saying, and that like if it is religious, it's like a different domain. But like calling it a dimension, I mean, I don't know. I'm no mathematician, but I'm pretty sure that's like people
yeah,
use that as like, what the fuck's that even mean?
they well, language is important on all of
Yeah.
that anyway. So
But point being is, I'm just saying that's something that like it's just a buzzword. That especially, and it's even
yeah,
more obvious with
100%.
something like Anna Paulina Luna, because let's be real, she's just some dumb whore. That she's
Yeah,
like dimensions, and then she's
yeah.
like, like it's like woo.
Well, I don't think it's so much of that she is like researched on it or anything and thinks that. I think that maybe to a degree, like she thinks about it in like the cartoon term, like a dimension. Like when you think about a dimension, you think about like when Goku goes to the other dimension after he dies in Dragon Ball or
Yeah,
something like that. Like Batman and Superman going to multiple different worlds that are their version, but like they're a samurai or something in this place. Like
yeah,
it that's what it brings to mind for people. um but really, like, I think that when you look at consciousness studies and stuff, um there's evidence for life after death by looking into that. They talk about all these different teachings that try to let you know that your soul goes on to the afterlife and that it goes somewhere. And in all of the research I've done, I'm a person who didn't believe at all, and I've started thinking about it so much that I've either put myself into religious psychosis or I know like I've figured something out about it. And um, all of this points to the fact that there is something there after death. Um, when you have people taking DMT and psychedelics and stuff like that, they always report that they come into contact with different entities and stuff. And a lot of the reports say that they look like aliens. And I don't know, have you? I don't know if you've ever done DMT or if you know anybody who has done it.
yeah.
Um, but
I
you know,
would, but I would have at least. I mean, I don't know if I would right now. I mean, I would have in the past at least. So like, I don't know. It's not for lack of. I guess it is for lack of trying. I never really cared to try, but yeah, I've never done it. I've done like acid. I've done shrooms. I never even did that much acid. I didn't like acid. Acid feels evil. I don't know. I mean, call me. Maybe I'm
it
being a little
feels,
judgy here, but I get the feeling you've dabbled in drugs too.
unfortunately.
Yeah, but so like, yeah,
Um,
I've never dabbled. I mean, I did little small amounts of acid. I didn't like it. It felt evil. Like, I mean, like it
it
genuinely
does.
felt evil. Whereas like shrooms actually felt wholesome and like, I mean, even when I was unpleasant, it felt like it was almost like, but like it was almost like I had to work through that or something. It felt far more therapeutic. Whereas acid felt like literally evil. Like I would find myself thinking in glee on stuff that I would never under other circumstances find to be like awful things, and I'd be like, and then be appalled by like that being like me. Like it just but it puts you in a dark space, and it's like it's weird. Whereas something like a shrooms for me, I mean I don't know. Maybe you're someone who thinks they're all bad. Maybe it's a matter of how you use it. But yeah, I've never fooled with DMT, but I do know it's supposed to be strong as shit. So
I do agree that it's not for everybody for sure, but I mean if people do experiment, I don't particularly think that that's too, super duper wrong, I guess. But when you get to looking into the Bible, like they do explicitly warn against that. Pharmakia is considered a sorcery in
Mm-hmm.
the Bible. And the reason that it is considered a sorcery is because it can bring on effects like that. Like when, you do hear stories about people tripping on various different, things, and they have spiritual experiences. And they always, words are always key when you look into that. When people hear expanding their consciousness as like a term, they just think it sounds cool for the most part. A lot of people don't really think about the possibility that it actually is expanding your awareness of something around you that does exist. Which this goes deep into like super schizo territory, you know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
um, people who have, dabbled in stuff like that and have had like intense experiences like that all tend to say the same thing. I myself have had experiences like that, and I even, you know, use them as a sacrament for whenever I would practitioner, any kind of occult thing that I was into at the time. I used to actually try to do this stuff, and I succeed several times, and I always succeeded better if I had used a, psychedelic of any kind as a sacrament to start the thing off. And it's not, I understand that your mind and your setting does determine, typically what you're going to get out of it. But like you said, acid does feel evil, and there's a reason that it feels evil is because um, it's man-made. You know, the closest you can get to that naturally is like LSA, which
Mm-hmm.
is in morning glory seeds and
Yep.
stuff. And that's like if you were wanting to take like the natural route of experience, but and it's something that is derived naturally from that. When Albert Hoffman synthesized LSD, he figured it out from ergot. So it started out naturally, but anytime that you consume LSD, you are not, you know, taking like a natural chemical. It's something that's been made that way, and that's why it does feel so evil. And it tends to gravitate a lot of experiences on it toward the darker side, and I feel like it's probably tuning you into something that's actually there, and
Mm-hmm.
that you're drawing it to yourself by having negative thoughts and stuff like that when the trip's going on.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes into the whole intersection of like the sci-fi stuff and the spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
Um, if you get to
Did you go back to? I know you said the difference being man-made, but I don't know, just because you dabble in the occult, and I kind of said that like the difference between like when I would like say I came across like a I don't know a rough moment, I guess you could say, in like or even like a maybe a dark thought or something, when I was on acid. I mean, you might almost find I would almost maybe the situation that I might find myself in, and that would be like I'd almost lean into it, like, ooh, I like that, like, oh, whatever dark thing or whatever. Whereas with shrooms, you'd be like, why? It would almost be like, then I would find myself reevaluating that situation and being like, why did I think that? What behaviors have put that forth into motion? How can I? What can I do to prevent this from happening? Like you get what I mean? It's a very different thought process that I find myself in these two different things. I mean, they're both very introspective, questioning things, but in different ways. One's more seemingly, from my experiences, wanting to delve into, to lean into the darkness, whereas it's almost like the other one's like wanting to. I mean, it's not like it's trying to stay away from darkness, I guess, necessarily, but when it encounters it, it's trying to understand it and find out what the issue is. Essentially deal with the problem. Why is this a thing? Type deal.
I mean, it definitely causes you to like, psychoanalyze yourself and the things
Mm.
that you do. And I feel like that's a sign of a strong mind with stuff like that. Because if you're gonna dabble with anything, past like the realm of like the typical shit people do, and you start going into psychedelics, that really is like advanced type stuff. Now, some people will like do it all the time and make themselves so weird because they've got so spiritual off of it that they like are intolerable to be around. I mean, everybody knows like the typical like wook dude who has done so much stuff that he basically starts telling you, you know, weird occult stuff out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever been like around like a dude like that who just like had fried himself and he was always kind of spitting out like weird, like mystical stuff that you would hear when you're researching the occult. But like
Honestly, no. I never really hung out with a whole lot of space cadets. Like me and my friends, like I've never really known someone who I've never really known anyone who was like that was like they did that a lot. Like I don't know if anything, hallucinogenics are one of those weird things. I've never known many people that's like they do it a lot. They'd be like I've done it a handful of times. That'd be about it, and that's my experience as well. So, yeah, but maybe there are people. I mean, I know there are people actually. I never dabbled in those communities.
yeah, it's not really something you kind of end up avoiding where I come from. So it was, you know, the place I grew up in was like a really small town area of Kentucky, and there was nothing to do there. So, you know, I didn't really grow up in like a place where I had, you know, much hope anyway. And you do fall into stuff like that. You know, especially as life goes on, you go through certain things like, you know, you got the dudes who will knock back a beer and stuff, and then you get these other guys who, or they can't handle what's going on with them so much that they start digging into that kind of stuff. You know, with the drugs and everything like that, like it becomes an area where, like, when you're sad, like everybody you know is offering you a pill. You know what I mean? Oh, this will
Mm-hmm.
cheer you up, and that's because that what's what works for them because they're
Yeah.
also, you know, broken and hurting like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I would agree with that. When it comes to opiates, I had a similar such situation, but we were talking about hallucinogens. So, I mean, I guess you're saying it sounds like you've known people that's like their thing, though. I mean, I've never really known many people like that. But opiates,
yeah,
yes, for
I've
sure. That describes opiates for me in my area. You know, I'm from Tennessee, so yeah,
Tennessee, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm from originally from Kentucky, the lower eastern part. I won't give like that. I'll tell you in a message later. Like you might be familiar with the area. I'm not sure.
I'm not familiar with Kentucky, so I won't be. But you can if you want to.
I guess I just
Yeah.
assume that everybody who's in Tennessee goes to Kentucky every now and then.
No.
Um,
No, I actually moved
um,
to Tennessee in high school, so like it's not like somewhere I know like the back of my hand. It's just kind of where I
oh,
spent
okay.
my early adult life at.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at is like that I grew up around a lot of people who were like that, and then you had dudes who specifically would like eat psychedelics all the time, and I've ran into a couple of them, and they always seem like they're would be talking about stuff like this, but like they would fry themselves out and have like such bad schizophrenia that you wouldn't really be able to tell like what they were actually trying to say. You know what I mean? It would just sound like a run-on sentence, and I feel like what that comes from to some degree is, you know, that they have probably tapped into some stuff by trying to expand their consciousness excessively, and it's like overloaded their brain, and they didn't know how to deal with it. Because I feel like they're, you know, I feel like the spirituality concept of everything needs to probably be looked at deeper by everybody. Um, there is something that's there, and they're always trying to promote ways for us to get in touch with it. Like they do, you know, they've made it cool to be on drugs for a lot of youth, especially. Um, and it's something that, you know, a lot of people fall into. You'd be surprised how many people do. And then specifically, like they treat psychedelics like it's a healing method, and I do agree that it is to some, you know, extent. But
Mm.
when it comes to stuff like DMT, like they purposely put this mystique about it out there so that people will want to try it. Um, and when you do try it, you have like a breakthrough on it. They always call it, and it's where it seems like everything, like the sheen over your life, has been taken apart, and you're somewhere and something's talking to you. Typically, that's a big common thing with everybody who tends to do it. If they go like do a deep enough, you know, dose of it, that they can achieve that. Um, there's all kinds of stuff when you look into it about the adrenochrome thing, and I feel like that adrenochrome probably is like a psychedelic of some sort that gives them like the ultimate breakthrough, and that's why they consume it. And I guess like what I'm getting at is I feel like the way that it all ties in together is that they're setting it up to be revealed to us that this is a thing. But they're also doing like the weird government psyops and trying to like, make certain things seem like, sorry.
Oh, did you hear that beep?
Yeah, I did.
It
I was
scared the
like,
fuck out of me. Was that you? What was that?
no.
What the fuck?
That's what I was like.
That's scared. All right, keep going. That scared the shit out of me. I have no idea what that was.
Surprised me a little bit too. I was like, I had to stop for a second.
Hey, if that's feds tapping into our stream, then they need to like be more subtle about that shit.
Yeah.
All right, go on.
They know I'm giving the truth away. That's what it is.
All right. Maybe it was just some sort of weird interference. That was odd. So let's go.
I think that like that's what they're trying to push with the alien narrative. Ultimately, is that's what that's going to come out of there. And I don't know, like, what their big angle with trying to act like it is physical is, because when you get to looking at the actual evidence that they do have for aliens, the biggest categoristic, thing about it is the how can I, like, what am I trying to say? It's the fact that they are able to defy physics, and that's one of the big categories of it, and why they're revealing it to people and stuff now is they're like, these things are real because our weapons can't deal with them. They're basically saying like, we have nothing that can match their technology every time that they put something out here, and telling us that for a reason. I feel like they're trying to program everybody into being more willing to accept like the whole interdimensional alien like hypothesis, because it's getting to be a time where they're gonna have to. All this stuff is like ratcheting up like crazy. If you've like paid attention to like TikTok or anything over the last couple of years, like conspiracy TikToks used to just be kind of like, filled with stuff like that. And anytime you've seen like a UFO video, it's always a repost of an old one. But nowadays you do see like these videos happening all the time. Like it's being posted constantly. There's like now YouTube compilations, and yes, some of them are fake, but some of them look like so weird that you can't explain them. And these are just like videos that are getting taken by people. Like I'm sure that the government itself.
You just mean like UFO videos and shit? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're putting it out there so much, like allowing it to take so much in the algorithm to be pushed out to everybody, because it's on everything now. It's put out to everything. You find it everywhere. UFO Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, is always popping off nowadays. And they got that stuff like the Boogosphere. Like there's so many new like alien things that are supposed to be real that are coming out now, and people aren't reacting to it like the way that they wanted them to.
do you have like a thought about that or something? Because that is actually true. I haven't even been covering that at all on my show. There have been, I don't even really know enough to even really talk about it in like a glancing way like we are right now. That's how little I'm paying attention to the UFO shit. I just don't fucking care. I'll be honest. Like what we're talking about right now, I find this like interesting, but so far as like the modern day, like, ooh, what's going on with the aliens? Don't fucking care. Like if like, I guess maybe the way I see it now is if it matters, I'll probably hear about it. Like otherwise, like it's all just some fucking bullshit, fucking likely CGI this or bullshit video or ooh, trust us, we have super secret. Here's 80 words that are hedged in incredibly legalistic language, and then it ends with aliens.
Yeah.
Like what? Like okay, no, I've had this game enough. I don't fucking care. Fuck off. Like I don't know. Maybe I just kind of I just thought it was interesting. You did point that out. Like it's to a point where like I haven't even commented on not commenting on it till now. But yeah, I've literally seen multiple things now since the Anna Paulina Luna thing where I think she's done something. I don't know what. Some sort of big reveal for alien something or other. Just no one seems to fucking care.
like they're always giving us something new now, and they're pointing it out more than it ever has been, and nobody does care. They're definitely not getting the reaction out of it that they wanted from it, and the reason is because most people think that it's fake. And look, a big part of it is fake. Like, it's not, this whole thing, like every UFO that you see in the video, even the convincing ones, I believe that there's probably an explanation for those, but there are, pieces of video that do get out that, like, they look too real. They look, way too weird to not be what they're saying it is. You even have, like, people talking about, like, summoning orbs and stuff by doing the CE5 thing, and then they'll film it and put it out there. And so they're injecting that into the culture on top of, like, the typical, like, alien stuff that they're doing. I like to think of that like History Channel type alien. So it's like just conspiratainment for the most part. They're not actually putting any real knowledge out there, but they're trying to further, like, it being talked about. And so, like, all the normies will grasp onto that, but they'll keep it as, like, just a spooky story or something that's weird, and, like, they don't pay it no mind. But it's, something that they keep trying to push out to us for a reason now at this point. They held off on it for so long. And I believe that they did that so that they could get everybody apathetic to it, because what they're going to reveal, they always say that it would be like the thing that, would cause society to collapse. Like, that's why they don't tell us, is because society would collapse. And, I feel like ultimately that some degree of what I feel like I've figured out about it is the truth about it. I think that there is a spiritual component to it that's big time, but it also works hand in hand with, like, just trying to, like, mind fuck you into thinking that it's just all Project Bluebeam. It's so complexly weird because it all points to every bit of that on each side. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, but by the way, real quick, I do want to point out, not that it really necessarily matters, but I guess more for the audience. I know you did hone in on the Project Bluebeam thing, and I get why, because earlier I said something about kind of like maybe not believing it, but I was actually more meaning like an on the ground, like specific day to day. Because I mean, I'm sure you're aware of it. I mean, this is I forget the name of it. This would be like all the different projects they had where they looked into the UFO stuff and then find out this is bullshit, and all the different. I mean, there's all the different stories out there about the feds that were like essentially men in black who, drove all sorts of researchers crazy, gave them this bullshit, piece of research, that bullshit piece of research, essentially flooding the market with, like, essentially making it to where, how the hell do you ever trust anything that comes out of this sphere? Because it has been so. Because even then, like, they seed some info to some researcher that's completely fake, and then that person runs with that info, and then so on and so forth. The next thing you know, it's impossible to parse what's true and what's not.
I feel like you've got to use discernment on that big time, because it is so muddy. Like, it's a field that is so muddy, even among conspiracy, that, like, it becomes something that people give up on looking into once they get far enough into it because of that.
Yep.
And it's had me frustrated numerous times, to the point where I was like, man, I don't even want to do it. Like, I would take massive breaks from Twitter and, like, just not work on content and stuff, because I would just feel like I couldn't properly convey what I was trying to say about it, because it's purposely muddied up like that. But there is a component of it that they 100% believe in, because they keep trying to, like, guide us into that direction slowly. They never give us anything massive, like just in a big boom. And if they do, it's something horrible like Charlie or like 9/11 or something like that, something that the world can see. But it all ends up furthering towards that. And they, like I said earlier, that has a spiritual, side to it as well. Because, like, with the Charlie thing, him passing away has made all kinds of people start going back to church and stuff. Now, I don't know if that was their goal at all. That's where it starts to get muddy, because you're like, they would probably have known that would happen. You know what I mean?
Well, there's an inevitable rally around the flag effect with these sorts of things to some degree. Obviously, it's a little bit different situation since this is far more of like I guess a binary effect here, since there's this left-right dynamic going on, whereas most deep events are usually along I guess more of a singular national line or something, like a 9/11. It's like everybody was like, oh my God. And so the predictable is like, kind of the like the going back to church, the, kind of, I don't know, the feeling like an American again type deal. We're getting a lot of that. Although this time it's a little bit different because it's maybe, I guess you could say, more focused on the right. So as opposed,
Yeah,
and it's having a little bit of, I guess, an opposite effect somewhat on the left, you could say. So
yeah, it's not, I know that you're like me and you think that, everything that does happen has a purpose that they want behind it, especially like a world event like that. I don't, at all rule the possibility of this
yeah,
being true with this out. I think that, they even, seeded little stuff that would make people think in the direction of like, you should look into the conspiracy about the Jews
mm.
because we're going to release the Israel. Charlie Kirk was scared of them, that he said he was afraid that Israel would take him out.
Yeah. I'm not
You
gonna
know,
lie, they are playing a little bit too hard in the Israel thing, and I'm like, I mean, I've been covering it just fine, but I have always been cautioning my audience, like, hey, there's like literally nothing here other than like this is all fishy. This is all very fishy, but keep in mind there's nothing. I'm completely open to the idea that it's the official narrative, although the official narrative currently, keep in mind this is the 15th, so this for those who watch this later, there's a paywall. But as of right now, I mean, it is pretty goddamn fishy. But I mean, it's still. I don't know, maybe some things could get straightened out and realize like, oh, there was just a misunderstanding with this piece of info, that info. Oh, this makes more sense now. I'm open to the idea that like when it's all said and done, this was just some crazy lefty or something that just kind of, I guess, lucked up. Maybe luck's the wrong word here, but you know what I mean. They kind of lucked up. They just got lucky in their endeavor. That somehow they executed everything just right. Not that it was necessarily like anything, I guess, that would really require, at least particularly a shot, some sort of master or whatever. But he was able to pull it off. I mean, I guess that is a possibility, but it is also like, I don't know. It's hard not to notice, connect all the sort of dots, or at least not necessarily connect the dots, but at least be aware of the dots and be like, there is possibly a connection here. And
yeah,
I am prepared. I'm essentially prepared to connect those dots, but I'm not connecting them quite yet. I'm just keeping the dots there, a little bit in my mind's eye, going, I kind of see a little bit of a form here, but I'm not quite at connecting them yet. But
yeah,
yes, you are right. Keep your head on a swivel, and there might be something to that. I mean, if you are, I mean, we do lose our minds in this world because you do get too schizo. But keep in mind, anything that's confirming your bias is pretty goddamn strong. You got to kind of be careful of that. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess once again, caution. I don't know when this, what will be going on when this gets released publicly, but keep your head on a swivel. Keep it open for anything, even if it does confirm your beliefs. I mean, I don't
yeah,
know, it really was wild with some of the carols and some of the people of the world that came out asserting it. Don't get me wrong, I was, kind of very much casting hardcore suspicion, but I was never asserting that was the case because that's
yeah,
retarded.
yeah. It's, I mean, they keep putting, little things out with every event anyways. And I mean, I think with the whole thing, like how Kanye West was, going in on the Jews for a while and stuff, and then the tunnels being built and all that, that they try to push this event out to people, so that this stays in their mind for some reason. But at the same time, you're going to be punished severely for it if you talk about it, is how they are. Some people don't talk about it because no one wants to seem like they're racist or
Mm.
anything like that. And I don't even really advocate for it. I just see that there is a big part of that going into conspiracy lore, and that they could block that from all of us, assuming that that's what that is all they wanted to. But it seems like they try to feed the anti-Semitic conspiracy out to people big time. And by doing that, like, people always have a conflict over whether they're going to support what they're doing or not, because they feel like that's the land of Christ, and they're doing something wrong by like not supporting their actions. You know what I mean? Or by
Yeah.
even questioning anything. And so, like I said, that goes back into the spiritual component of all of it. Um, when you look into like all the religions, especially like anything that you can go through with eschatology, talking about the end of times, Um, I mean, it seems like they're pushing like directly apocalyptic narratives to people. I don't know what episode it was. I think it might have been a clip that I saw of like a Tim Pool podcast, and there was a guy who was over there whenever they did the quote unquote mock sacrifice of the red heifer. But
Mm-hmm.
what
Awesome
they
Jew was his name.
Yeah, and he said that they actually did sacrifice the real red heifer. That they essentially snuck and did it. Like they weren't supposed to do it, and they did it. So they
Yeah.
on purpose did something that was supposed to trigger the apocalypse. Um, and then it ties back into further events beyond that, because if you look back into like around the time period that they did that, this is where it's going to get really really woo. Um, when Matthew Brown put that post out that had that screen cap from that video from the Lifting the Lamp YouTube, that guy realized that he was putting it out there and was like, why is Matthew Brown like talking about you know this name and put my video up? The guy was apparently, supposedly, because I think that the whistleblowers are on government payroll because they're told what they can say and what they can't. You know what I mean? They have to clear it. Um, so I don't really believe that every whistleblower is, really coming out and trying to drop secrets. I think that a lot of them probably are sent out on purpose with pieces of stuff that they want to put out there for us. They try to let us do like the thinking, work with it when it comes to that.
All right, man. We're about an hour. I guess now would be a good time if you have any sort of closing thoughts or any particular angles you really wanted to hone in. Now would be the time. But otherwise, you can let people know where they can find you, and we can go ahead and get out of here. Maybe do this some other time. But yeah, like I said, any closing thoughts, any final angles or whatever. I mean, I'm not necessarily rushing you if you have any specific spot you want to hone in and take your time. But yeah, the floor is yours.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I know that it does get really long-winded when you talk about this stuff because you've got to like just keep going down, the whole list of the ways that it all ties in with that. But I guess what the main point I'm trying to get at is, uh, it's basically that like when it comes to the alien stuff and the occult stuff, it's such a prevalent thing, even within culture now, that I feel like they're setting us up to be, communicating with these things ourselves for a reason, and that there's been kind of warnings about it the whole time. And I guess I think people need to start looking deeper into the spiritual reasons of it, and not even from a religious standpoint, but by trying to understand why they do what they do. Like the whole point of the documentary I was talking about that I'm making at the beginning is that that there is, you know, a big component to spiritual warfare that goes on that you can see if you look hard enough, and that it's something that is happening in the modern day, and it's just more easy to see now than it ever has been. When you get to looking at that and you look deeper, like a lot of the secrets that they don't want us to know are hidden by us not researching. If we would research, we would figure it all out ourselves. And there's a reason why all the spiritual stuff is getting pushed. There's a reason why all the alien stuff is getting pushed. And I just caution people to just be very, very cautious of, thinking that this is all going to be like a big love and light thing. Because I feel like there's definitely a very, very evil side to it. And it's it's something that we have to kind of look at, because the world's being controlled by something, and we all know that. And I feel like when we get to looking into this stuff, that for some reason we get closer to the answer. I don't know.
With that, where can people find you, bud?
You can find me on X at King Knight, KINXNIGHT, and then underscore. Find me on there. Follow me there. I do have a YouTube channel up called Night TV Productions, but it does not have any content on it currently. I'm looking at the very first release that I make on there to be the documentary, and I'm trying to get it back in. I've almost got it finished. I'm actually like very far into it, but I've got to do it, a one-man job, so it won't be on there yet. But I'm thinking I'm going to have some other content coming up very, very soon. I wanted that to be the first thing, but those are pretty much the only places you can find me at right now. Instagram, same name as my Twitter as well.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you joining us. For those who want to support what we're doing over here, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can follow me on Twitter at TarragangJose. If you want to support the show in the best way you really can, that's with money over at patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. The lowest level is $2. That gives you access to the early episodes. I do 1 to 2 of those a week usually. Keep up 4 of those behind the paywall on any given time. So that's weeks of paywall content. You also get access to the ad-free RSS feed. You also get access to Telegram and access to the pre-show, post-show, and video call-ins for me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead. And for the highest level, I give a big shout-out to them. That's my sponsors over at Patreon. Been hooking me up for a while now. I appreciate you guys. I have my previous co-host at Tarragang, at Learn to Toad, also at Abrogate D's, at ZOVRCK, at _Bazil, Tim Tuttle, at John Klebold, Will Bell's Delicious Rabbit Eye Wine, big fan of the show, Torrin May, at Wayne Taculus, and the Catcher in the Rye. And with that, we are going to get out of here. Love you all. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.